This is Metal Mike, and in this episode of the 80's Glam Metalcast, I talk with the super talented guitarist and keyboardist from Pretty Maids, Laney. Chris has been in so many cool bands like Zan Clan with Zinny Zan from Shotgun Messiah and Randy Piper's Animal. He's also a critically acclaimed producer. We have a great conversation. Check it out. So Chris, welcome to the 80's Glam Metalcast. How you doing today, man?
I'm just awesome. I'm on the 80's Metalcast, you know?
It's right where you belong, right?
Exactly. I mean, I'm actually a big fan of the podcast. I'm listening to every single episode because it's the kind of music that I love. And, I mean, of course, you get to interview all the artists that I love. So it's awesome.
Oh, that means a lot, Chris. Thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
All right, so we've got a new year. 2021. What are you working on? You working on anything for this year?
Yeah, right now I'm still doing this at the movies, which is it started off like one of those COVID-19 projects. You know, we wanted to do one song, you know, from the movies, from the 80's movies. Started out with, and it ended up like 10, and it became an album. And we did this Indiegogo campaign, and you know, and it was very successful. So. It's been a lot of fun, but now we're actually doing 90's movies. But that doesn't say it's not 80's music in the 90's music films, you know. So I'm doing that, and I'm also working with Kim Marcello right now from Europe, mixing his live album. So there's a lot of stuff going on.
Oh, great! I love Key. He's a cool guy, super cool guy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How about Pretty Maids? Anything going to happen this year for Pretty Maids?
Well, we do hope so. I mean, to be honest, the band is turning 40 years old this year. So it would be a big shame if we couldn't do anything, you know. So, and I mean, it's all, there are so many sides to this because Ronnie, our singer, he has cancer. It's actually stage 4 cancer, which is like, you know, we don't know how long, you know. So this whole virus thing is, it's quite, you know, the big thing here because of his health, you know, because he can't get this, you know. So, but hopefully, I mean, it's in our heads. We want to do something special this year, but I can't say more than that. I mean, the whole industry is so fucked up right now. So, you know,
oh yeah, and we're all praying for Ronnie because I know it's kind of been up and down, but. You know, we're all praying for him.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, he's such a good guy. I mean, we're talking every day. I mean, I produced his solo album that will be out in March.
Okay.
Which, you know, 80's fans will love because there's a lot of 80's into that album,
yeah.
You know. But the thing is, he's in good spirit, and it feels really good right now. But, you know, when you have stage 4 cancer, you live in like 3 months, you know, at the time, you know, and do a new scanning, and, you know. So that's just the way we need to live with this.
Now, were you a fan of them back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was in a band back in, I think it was 87 or something like that. You know, we just wrote a new song, and I was very young. I mean, we're going to be like 13 or something like that, you know. We were listening to the new album, Huge World. And I remember we were so proud of this song we just wrote, but when we heard that record, everyone just went straight home without saying goodbye or nothing. Totally, you know. And of course, yeah, I'm a huge Pretty Maids fan. So for me to join the band is like the movie Rockstar. You know?
Right. You know, what's funny for me is that I wasn't very familiar with Pretty Maids till about 5 years ago. And I think I heard Partners in Crime off of Jump the Gun, and I just went crazy. I know everybody always talks about Future World, which is great, but man, I love Jump the Gun.
Me too. I mean, that is my absolute favorite album. I hold Jump the Gun as number 1. As number 2, I say Syndicate. Yeah. And then I must say the third must be like the comeback album, so to speak, Pandemonium. So those 3 are my absolute favorites. But the thing is, my old band 17, when I was a teenager, we always played Red Hot and Heavy as an extra, encore when we were out playing. So it's in my blood and veins, you know.
Yeah, something about Jump the Gun, man. I was like, every song is good, you know, like Savage Heart, Headlines, Don't Settle for Less. I mean, it's just so good, so catchy.
Yeah, I fucking love that album. I do. And the thing is, the fun part is that we don't play, or the sad part, we don't play that many from that album, you know. But now, the last tour we did, we actually played a couple from there, which was fun. And we also actually played Syndicate from Syndicate, you know, and we did some new material that hasn't been played in a long time, you know, so it was really cool.
Well, even the recent albums, like the ones you're on, are amazing. They're very consistent. They're just Pretty Maids is a consistent band, you know what I mean? Undress Your Madness is great.
Thank you. No, but I see it that way. I mean, they never actually made a bad album, you know. In the 90s, maybe I wasn't so fond of the sound that was coming out, but the songs are there. But, I mean, everything became low budget, you know, like for every so-called 80s band, you know.
Yep.
Smaller record labels, you know, less budget and all that. But, I mean, the songs are there, you know. So, and also, I mean, first time I saw Pretty Maids was in 1990, and I was blown away. I mean, they've always been a good live band. So to become a part of it, it's a dream come true. It is.
Well, you've definitely played with some other 80s heroes, too, so we got to talk about that. So you played with Zinny Zan in Zan Clan. What was it like working with Zinny?
Yeah, that was, like, the best. I mean, we had so much fun, man. We had so much fun. It all started off because I'm a huge Shut the Messiah fan.
Yeah, me too.
The thing is, I met him at the Rock Club here in Stockholm, and, you know, it took me like 2 weekends until I got the balls or was drunk enough to actually go and, you know, talk to him. And when I did that, I invited him to my studio, and before he arrived, I'd written like 3 songs that I thought he would like, you know, this would be so cool. It would be like Shut the Messiah-ish, you know. And he came to the studio and was a gentleman and signed all my stuff and all that, and you know, I said, hey, I got to play you some tracks. And he was like, yeah. So we recorded 2 of those songs. And after he lived like far from Stockholm right there, you know, in the woods somewhere. So like halfway, he called me back and go like, hey, Chris, we got to have a band. You
nice.
know? And I was like, you're kidding me, you know. So, and then he asked me who should join, and I had all my friends. So in a day, we were a band. And that's how Zan Clan came to be. You know?
Well, that's awesome. You know, I've talked to him a few different times. He's always been awesome to me. And, you know, that first Shotgun Messiah album, I know a lot of people love The Second Coming, but for me, that first album, that was the first time I heard him. I love that first album.
Oh, yeah. I'm totally with you. I mean, I love the second, too. But the first one is like, that's my DNA.
Yep. Yeah.
You know?
Me too.
And Zinny is, to be honest, he's a brother to me. And our kids, you know, we have two daughters. They are like best friends. My daughter is actually here today, and she's going to meet his daughter, Jasmine, pretty soon. So we're still like family, even though we don't play together. You know?
That's awesome.
He's one of the nicest guys.
So speaking of these 80s bands that you love that came out of, you know, America and all over the world, what are some of the bands that you grew up on that you love?
Yeah, it started with, I mean, if we only going to do the 80s stuff, I'd go for, there are so many, where should I start? But of course, I love Striper, I love Shut the Messiah. I do like the 3 first Warrant albums. Vinnie Vincent, holy shit, I mean, he's my hero. But Bullet Boys, I mean, the first Bullet Boys album with Smooth Up India and all these songs is like, holy crap, man. Yeah. And Madam X, and, you know, I'm such a fanboy. You know,
Me too.
I am. And I still listen to all of this. I mean, TNT from Norway with Tony Harnell on vocals, fantastic.
Love them.
You know, the list can go on and on and on. And I would actually stretch everything to 92, pretty much, because then we have like Heaven's Edge and bands like that happening, you know. So there's a lot of good stuff. And I got to say Wasp, because Wasp was a major influence on me, you know. So
okay, well, that's a good segue, because you played with Randy Piper and Randy Piper's Animal. How did this come about?
Yes. It came about like this. I got the album called 900 Pound Steam or something, and it was just horrible. To begin with, it was mixed in mono, Come on.
Wow.
I mean, and it sounded like someone recorded it with their iPhone in the settlement. It was just horrible. So after a few glasses on Saturday night, I sent a text or an email to the manager and said, like, hey, I can't see my idols, this way. So I'll gladly remix it for free,
Mm-hmm.
And then Piper called me up and he said, yeah, what? And then I did like this. I went in and I made a demo of one of their songs,
Mm-hmm.
This is how it could sound, And then it didn't take long. Then he called me up and said, like, hey, man, what size are you? I was like, what do you mean? We want you to join this tour we're doing right now because Chris Holmes can't leave L.A. because of legal issues.
Okay.
And I was like, come on. I mean, I don't know how old my dog was, but like 3 or 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to go like, I'm in Sweden, for fuck's sake, going on Monday. It doesn't happen like that, So, and then it was quiet for a while. And then Rich and Piper called me up and said, hey, man, we really want to work with you. We fired the rest of the band. It didn't work out. Too much drugs and shit. And so I wrote 2 albums. One called Violent New Breed and one called Virus.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really proud of these albums. I am. I mean, I went to Cincinnati because that's where Piper lived. And I got to tell you, when I went into the customs, the guy in the customs, he said, like, hey, man, welcome to Cincinnati. Are you here for business or pleasure? And I said, pleasure. And he said, good luck, sir. Yeah. But well, we had fun. And, I mean, that was my first trip to the States as well. And it was the first time we actually saw each other, So we were having a good time. We were drinking tons of beers. And he actually got hold of one of those Betamax players. So he showed me, like, Circus stuff,
okay.
old pre-Wasp stuff. And, it was just an amazing trip. And then I got us to do, like, a tour in Scandinavia that could pay us so we could make a second album as well. So the only bad thing was that it all ended in a bad way. But that's how things happen sometimes. I'm still, like, friends with Rich. We were, like, best buddies still. But me and Piper hasn't spoken for, like, 5 years or something.
Gotcha.
So.
People, like anybody listening who hasn't heard these albums and you like Wasp, you got to check them out because, I mean, it really has the Wasp spirit there. The vocalist kind of sounds like Blackie, but not completely. And just the whole thing really works. It really has that Wasp vibe. I like it.
Yeah, it's like Wasp, but a little bit more melodic, even.
Yeah,
I would say. I mean, when Wasp is looking to the Who, we're more looking to the 80's.
Yeah,
so to speak. So I'm very proud of these. You got to check it out. I mean, they're everywhere, like on YouTube and shit like that. But I know that the record label went bankrupt, and so the CDs you can't get them anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm actually thinking of that is a thing I need to become. On speaking terms with Piper, because I would like to re-release some of these albums because I'm too proud of them to just make them die.
Right.
So.
How important do you think he was to the Wasp sound? Because you can kind of see as you get past The Last Command, you know what I mean? It really starts to change. I think he was a big piece of the sound.
Absolutely. I can't take that away from him, Even though he wasn't like the songwriter.
Right.
But the way he plays, and also his background vocals.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of cool ideas. And I must say, I was up jamming with Chris Holmes when he was in Sweden last time. And we sat and we had a long talk, and the thing is, just going out and playing with him, you hear Wasp, know what I mean, in the guitar playing, He shouldn't sing, but play guitar he can still, But man, he's such a good guy. He's such a fucking good guy, too. And the whole thing, I must say that those two guitarists, they are, 75% of the sound, They are. Because it's not a flashy guitar playing. It's like, it's so much balls, and then it's all of a sudden a little blues. You know what I mean? So I love that.
Do you have a favorite Wasp album?
First one.
First one?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
First one. Yeah. I mean, I know every song in and out. I even actually had a tribute to Wasp, it's called. You can check it out on Facebook. There's a whole show where we actually do like a tribute to the first one. We play, we even, had the meat and everything, So, no, the first one, that is my go-to. But even I must say, Last Command I also like a lot. You know, there's a few really, really good songs on that, but I do hate the sound of it. You know, so it's having a hard time listening to it just because of the sound.
Yeah, I think I like Last Command just for the songs because I think they're just so good. They're catchy, they're fun.
Oh yeah, and also I must say, I mean, it was like all of a sudden it was Wasp with money. You can see that. I mean, it looked expensive, and you know, everything was a little bit flashier. You know, but still, that's why I think I like the first one, because it's so raw, it's so brutal in every way, and so shameless, you know. And that is something I must say, like the two latest Wasp albums, or the first I actually want to listen to after everything's done. Some people hold like Headless Children and the opera, what's it called?
Oh, Crimson Idol?
Yeah, like the best thing ever. For me, it's that's not Wasp.
No.
I mean, it's like they want to sound like the Who do a Tommy, you know.
Yeah.
I don't dig that. I want the metal Wasp, you know.
Yes, I'm with you. Yeah, they do all those. He puts all those crazy fills in all those songs, and it drives me nuts.
I mean, the drums. I mean, they're all over the place. It's like he's on acid or something, the drummer, because it's like totally just drum fills.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you know. It's not for me. But I got to tell you, now speaking about Wasp, I got to tell you something. When I was in Cincinnati, it was my birthday. The Piper came in, and when I was in bed, you know, and sang for me. And it said, like, yeah, I know it's such a, you know, geek you are with Wasp. So here's one of the skulls that I had on my stage outfit, you know, that was with chains, you know, to the legs and shit like that.
Yeah.
So I got that, and I also got the I Fought Like a Beast EP. Signed by Tony Richards and the original ones, you know.
Wow.
So I was so happy, man.
Now, I know you haven't talked to him in a long time, but are you hearing any, is he done with music? Because he's been pretty inactive on social media, online. He's kind of like just missing.
I don't know, to be honest. The thing is, the good thing, what I've heard is that he's sober. He's been sober now for like 10 years, I think.
Good.
You know, but that's the last thing I heard. And he ran off with the manager from Where Angels Suffer and became a Christian. And God knows what, you know.
Okay.
As long as his health is getting better, because when we were working, he was drinking like 19 beers a day, you know.
Wow.
And it was like, and he has an illusion of that. He was so fucking angry with me, you know, with money and all that shit. And then when I started to tell him that, you always say that Black didn't pay you for your royalties and shit. And I went into ASCAP, and, you know, he had an account, you know. Who can transfer money if you don't have a bank account to start with?
Right.
So, I mean, that was his situation back then. Now I think this girlfriend he has shaped him up really good, and I hope he has a good life, man. Yeah. And the thing is, I'm really sad what happened, you know, because they went out with Where Angels Suffer. They released an album. I don't know if you know this, but they released an album that actually was all the songs from Animal. You know, the two albums I made.
Oh, okay.
And they just ripped those CDs and made that into like a best of, and the new cover saying Where Angels Suffer. They even put my name as a producer in the back.
Oh, really?
So I called up, ASCAP, and I had my lawyer to look into this, and they were supposed to have like a release party at Viper Room or something in LA. So they were actually standing outside the FBI and everyone saying, like, if you even sell an album right now, you know, breaking the law. So, and they were at Device record label as well, you know, but they had to, you know, take away everything, and it took like 2 weeks and everything was gone. But the good part is I became a good friend with Stead Howland and, you know, these guys, you know, because they understood me. They understood because they fired Piper right away. You know,
oh, wow.
He was lying. He said that I own all the rights. It's my name. It says Randy Piper's Animal, but that's not how it works, you know.
So I got to tell you, there's one day I was a lot of times what I'll do is, I'm getting older. Sometimes I get tired during the day, and I was listening to Spotify, right? I was listening to some music, and I fell asleep, and I woke up, and I wake up to Gathering of Kings, because, you know, Spotify will just throw random stuff on, and I'm like, I think it was the song Savior, and I was like, this is amazing. And then I start looking it up because on Spotify, obviously, it's just songs. You don't know who's involved. You don't know anything. So you have to go online and try to look it up. And I see that you're involved with that project, and it's a lot of musicians, from where you live. Talk about that a little bit, because I think that's an amazing album. Yeah,
it's a cool album. The whole project actually started by a music fan who wanted to do like his idea. His whole idea was actually to do like a phenomena project. Remember, and I was supposed to be the producer. So that's how it all started. But then I became a member of Pretty Maids. I couldn't produce. So they asked me just to be involved in some songs. And I think I'm playing two backing vocals on 2 tracks. And then they got the first gig was at Sweden Rock Festival. They asked me to join to play live. So I did one show with them. It was great. But now they decided that it's a band,
Okay.
So, and I can't commit to that, So... So both me and Björn is out, Björn Strid, who's in soil work and Night Flight Orchestra and all this. But they have their band, and it's still good. I mean, I heard the second album as well. It's really good. I mean, if you like that kind of music, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because, I'm loving it. I'm trying to think. I've got some of the songs. Out of My Life, Forever in a Day. I mean, those are really catchy, excellent, like I said, for fans who like the 80s style and the melodic rock. It's great stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a young dude who's writing the songs. I mean, I think he's not even 30 years old.
Wow.
He's quite a star, actually. No, but it was all a fun project. I mean, can you imagine we were like 18 people in Sweden Rock, had new singers for each fucking song, and it was mayhem. I think we made like 5 cents each because we were so many people.
Right.
But it was fun. It was fun.
So you've got some pretty cool solo stuff out there too, man. I was listening to some songs like "Kiss Tonight" and "Playing with Fire." You got some solo stuff that's got that, that kind of vibe of music that you like, the late '80s, early '90s, hair metal music.
Yeah, oh yeah. I did those back in 2009 and 2010, so it's quite, a long time ago. I must say it's ridiculous how time flies, but there are some cool guests on these albums, and I co-wrote a couple with Bruce Kulick, and I have people from Crash Diet, I have, from Europe, Ian Haugland is playing drums, and, there's tons of people involved. I even have Brian Robertson from Thin Lizzy playing guitar, guitar solo on 1 track, and,
wow.
So it was great fun because I was working at a studio called Polar Studios, and when I got this record contract, it was a win-win because I was hired by the studio, so I had my paid check from the studio. At the same time as I was hiring, renting the studio with myself as a producer, so I got paid for that too. No, but you know what I mean? So it was like a dream scenario. So those 2 albums was just me booking a studio for a month, writing songs, recording, calling up friends. I'll buy you beers and lunch, please play. It was so much fun. And then it was actually an idea to do a third one, but I decided to go for Laney's Legion as a band instead, because we actually made a tour opening up Wasp, how Wasp always comes back in my life.
Yeah, right?
But these guys were so good to me, the backing band, so we decided to call it a band,
So here's the big question, Chris. You played with so many of your heroes. Who's a hero you want to play with? Who you're dying to work with?
There's 2. I'd die to work with Paul Stanley. Just to write songs with him. That would be brilliant. And I would love to produce Def Leppard. I mean, that's my next one. But, okay, I have a third one also. If Shaska Messiah would reunite, I would... I got to do that,
Well, you make an interesting point with some things you said earlier, because when you said, like, when you worked with Zinny Zan and you created some songs that were kind of like of the Shotgun Messiah vibe, I think as fans, with all of us, we would love to kind of have the keys to the kingdom, per se, right? To say, like, okay, Shotgun Messiah is going to do an album, but maybe they need somebody to get them refocused on their old sound. I mean, like I said, you could do that being a fan and being a producer and a musician. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I mean, we actually went out, what year was it? We did a Shotgun tour. We only called it Shotgun because we're only half of Shotgun Messiah.
Right.
Zinny Zan, and it was sticks on drums, and it was me on bass, and then we had Rob Marcello on guitar. Just to pay attention that Bob City, or that original name of the first album, was 25 years. So we made quite a large tour, festivals and clubs and shit. And for me, I know exactly, because I've followed this band since day one. I even have the demos before they became Kingpin,
yeah.
The first name was, and me and Styx are like, we are totally best friends. Me and my wife, we're always down where they live, like twice or three times a year, and we spend a weekend and we just drinking, eating, and then listening to demos, and go down in his basement and jam, and no, I would consider myself the right person to actually to do Shock the Messiah. I think so. Zinny and his Styx would absolutely say so too.
Yeah. Now I got one for you. This is one I think that you'd be able to do good with, and this is a person that really needs to put out some new music, is Vinnie Vincent.
Yeah. Oh yes. Oh yes.
Too long. It's been too long. He needs some new music.
New music, and this time I actually don't think it's going to do all this shredding and shit that they always talk about, because that's not important for me. He should do a singer-songwriter album, like almost AOR-ish kind of album, with songs like Tears and, Back on the Streets and all that shit that he's such a talented songwriter. I mean, my favorite song is an unreleased song called Gypsy in Her Eyes.
Yes, yep.
Which is fantastic, And, we should do that. I mean, right now people are like, can he shred? That's not important. Can he write? That's the important shit,
Exactly.
But I'll die for it. I mean, I actually, yesterday I bought a handwritten letter for $100,
Really?
Just because I love Vinnie Vincent. Yeah, it's true. From Snowden. I don't know if you know
David Snowden. Yeah.
But yeah. So I actually contacted him directly, and I was like, well, I don't have much left, but I have this like handwritten letter, signed by Vinnie. And I was like, how much? You give me a price, and I was like, you get $100,
Now, you know what song I love is No Substitute. I don't know why they didn't release that song. Such a good song.
Such a good song. It's such a good song. And, the whole first album has some really good stuff on it. The second one is almost even better. I mean,
I think so. Yeah.
That time of year, Ecstasy, ooh, Ashes to Ashes. I mean, come on.
It's
that
crazy.
Should be a big fucking album, I think,
Yeah.
And for me still, I go to these albums a lot, and now I'm actually talking about the songs, not the insane guitar playing, because I know we can do that, but it's not interesting for me.
Yeah.
I want the songs, and I want the solo like A Million to One with Kiss. I mean, when he plays like that, it gives you goosebumps. I mean, on places you won't mention on a podcast,
No, you're right. And I think, maybe what plagued Vinnie Vincent Invasion is, all the drum fills, the over-the-top shredding, the super high vocals. If they kind of dialed it down, they probably could have had that radio success. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I say you're completely right because, I'm a big Kiss collector, and especially with Vinnie Vincent. And if you listen to the demos he did of most of these songs, when he sings them, he has a darker voice, you know? And all of a sudden it gives you balls. And when you hear this, it's like screeching and, it's just too much,
Yeah.
He would need a producer that was holding his ear and going like, no.
Right. But don't you think now, as you being a producer, you've got to see this. I noticed this with albums, and you could use Kiss as an example, because I know you're a big Kiss fan. Obviously, I am too. I mean, look at an album like Hot in the Shade. It's a good album, but there's too many songs. Now, that's produced by Paul and Gene. You get to something like Revenge, it's a little bit more focused, you know what I mean? And it has stronger songs, Yeah. So I think all these guys have a ton of talent, but sometimes you've got to let somebody lead this band and kind of structure them and, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I think that's true. I mean, I've done this band called Crazy Licks here in Sweden, and I produced what is still the most selling album they've done called New Religion. And the thing is that then they're supposed to produce it themselves, and the next album just went down the drain, you know. And now we're working together. I'm not producing, but I'm mixing them, you know, all the time. But the thing is with producing is actually to find it's easy for artists. Now I'm not talking about, you know, crazily expensive, but in general is that you go in and you work with a producer and you think, aha, now we don't need him because now we know exactly how it's done.
Right.
And then I get stuff sent to me and I hear that they grasped the idea, but they did it all backwards. You know what I mean? That I have like tons of guitarists playing different sounds and do. But there's always place, you know, a spot for it, you know. Instead of, okay, now's the chorus, but nothing is coming in. I mean, how did you think? Everything was in reverse, you know. So it has a lot to do with arrangements. And that is what I think the whole 80s actually, you know, I'm raised on that. I know that shit. I was there, you know. Yep. And it's so cool to work with my old heroes, you know, because they find a young dude, or young, I'm soon 50 for fuck's sake, but younger than than they are. But, you know, somehow that I have the knowledge, I have my studio, and I know how to get that sound that it sounds like they have $1 million in cash, you know, in the budget, but, you know, they don't. The problem is that they, like, for instance, I mean, I fucking love the latest Stephen Percy album.
Okay.
But it sounds crap. I don't know why they do that. And I know they're more expensive in the States than sending the fucking files to me. I mean, so I think it's weird. The same goes with Striper. I love Striper, but why can't I mix it? Because it's always sounding like budgets. You know?
Let me ask you this, because there's a few albums, I mean, there's a lot of albums that I think sound incredible, and most of them fall in the 90s. And a couple that come to mind are Striper Against the Law, TNT, totally mind blank. Oh, Realized Fantasies. Realized Fantasies. And even, you know what I was listening to the other day was Yngwie, I think, Facing the Animal. All those albums have like a big production. Now let me ask you this, as a producer, how much would it cost any more today to make albums that sound like that? Did they have big budgets to make those albums, or is it just on the way that you do it?
The thing is, well, it helps to have a big budget, but the thing is, it was ridiculous budgets. I mean, if someone would pay me, it would be like 5% of what they paid for that fucking album to start with. Right. You know what I mean? So it all depends on who and why. I mean, you can have Ron Edison or whomever, you know. I know they're not that expensive anymore because, you know, there's no money anymore. Right. And then it's just the knowledge to make it happen, you know, to actually know how to create the sound, and actually to know the band, to know that, okay, we want it to sound like this, but with a modern touch, because you still need to be modern in the whole thing. You can't make something. If I would mix, you know, let's say, you know, Shotgun Messiah album today, it would sound 1,000 times better, I think, but it wouldn't be good as the old one because you know how it sounded. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you have to have that old feel, but have a modern touch. So I would go in and listen to, you know, to backtrack of what the band has done and come up with an idea. Okay, I really think this is like you in the guitar sound. So that's what we're going to do, but we're going to have bigger drums or whatever it is, you know. So it's very important for me to mix with having the fans in mind all the time. And since I'm a fan, I mix after what I would love to hear the band do. You know what I mean?
Right. Let's think back to, go back to that Striper Against the Law. That's an amazing sounding album. But it was 31 years ago. Hasn't the tech caught up where you could make that same sound on a smaller budget?
The thing is, you can. You can. The thing is, the budget back then was actually going for tape ops. You know, the guys, they had a guy who was only doing like recording and stuff and, you know, fixing tapes. And then you had the engineer that was only there to engineer. You might have two because they did double shifts. And then you had a producer who did nothing more than say yes or no and talk about arrangements. And then you had, it's just snowballing in budgets,
Right.
And right now, the problem is that a lot of people call themselves producers, but they only mix the album. And that's not fair, because a producer, his first job is actually to keep within the budget and do the best they can within the budget. That's the number one. Number two is to get the band to feel good, to deliver and all that, and go through the songs, lyrics, everything, arrangements, be there, produce, rehearse with the band. I do that all the time. I travel and I record the rehearsals, and we do changes in arrangements. I work with the drummer and how the pattern should be when he or she is playing, and then I send that off to them and go like, okay, so this is it, and now we rehearse for a month. And then we go into the studio, then you know exactly what to do,
Yeah.
So that's pretty much how I work, and that is what I think a producer should do, and not just get the files and do some cool sounds. I mean, I can do that as a mixing guy as well, and then the budget is nothing. So.
Let me ask you this one. Is music now being produced to be listened to on a small device or on headphones? Because back in the day, with those old albums, I had a giant stereo, right, with speakers. Now, a lot of times when I'm at home and everybody's home, I'm listening to shit on headphones and earbuds and through the phone. Is music being produced for this reason now?
No, I don't think so.
No?
Not in the rock genre.
Okay.
No. I mean, I'm sitting here with my Genelecs that cost a fortune, and what I do is I mix here, and when I feel it's, sounding terrific, then I mail it to myself as an MP3. And I listen to my earbuds, to see if I feel that it's something missing. Because you have to have that in mind as well, that, you get kind of spoiled. It's only us studio guys who have these kind of speakers, so you got to work on different different kinds of ways of enjoying the music. But no, I don't have it in mind. I don't. I just mix what I feel is good.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hey, man, this has been a great conversation. Anything you want to say to your fans out there in closing?
Yeah, I'm going to say one thing, that I'm working with Metalcast right now.
Oh,
so
okay.
Hopefully we will have something out this year or maybe early next year, So we're a lot of songs in. I think we have nine tracks all ready to go, and it's going to be like the old kind of Metalcast, with anthems and shit. So I think you're going to dig it. I even want the old logo back.
Awesome, man. I can't wait to hear all this stuff.
No, but thank you guys for enjoying my music, and I'm very humbled because I'm a fanboy. I love music, and when people like you and me talk, and I just feel right at home. That's the way it should be, I think.
I agree, man. It's been great talking with you. It sounds like we're pretty close in age. We grew up on the same music, so I'm sure we'll be talking some more.
I hope so, man. But take care and be safe, okay?
You too, Chris.
Well, that was a great episode with Chris. Make sure you check out all the different projects he's involved with. Rock on!